Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. So as you have seen from the convocation for this meeting today, there are two items on the agenda, which are the follow-up of the Eumans assembly that we held 2 weeks ago. On one side, we will look a bit internally, let's say, the people interested on the goal that we set for our movement for the next months, which is the launch of a European citizen initiative on cannabis legalization in the European Union, or at least creating the conditions for cannabis legalization in the European Union. It's quite an important goal per se, for what legalizing cannabis means, but also it's an important challenge for Eumans as a pan-European movement of popular initiative, because this is going to be officially the second European citizen initiative that we are organizing. Yeah.
Virginia, the acoustic is not very good. I mean, I can understand, but do you have any other solution? Okay, you don't have other earphones.
No.
Okay.
Is it that bad?
I mean, I can understand. For me, it's fine. I mean,
okay. Maybe I can speak a bit higher volume, and it's a bit better, and I will keep it short so I don't bother the old bus here. Okay, so I was saying the European Citizen Initiative on Cannabis legalization is for Eumans the second opportunity to activate this instrument of participatory democracy. The difference compared to the one that we had until last year on carbon pricing is that the conditions across Europe for cannabis legalization are way more mature, and the network of organizations that we can involve in this is already existing stronger and progressively on board on the need of a European action on this level. So in tonight's meeting, the call was for join on this topic. So I want to ask also the participants in the meeting which type of engagement they can have with such an initiative, both in the preparatory phase of the European Citizen Initiative and potentially in helping us to create the network before we launch the initiative. The second item on the agenda is the Eumans groups. We have Klaus Sambor from the Unconditional Basic Income European Citizen Initiative, who follow the works of Eumans in the past months. We collaborated together with activities related to the promotion of participatory democracy instruments, and Klaus is willing to launch a Eumans group on the Unconditional Basic Income matter. I think that discussing his case in the meeting is also a way for us to reason on what is the purpose of the Eumans groups and how they can become an instrument to for our initiatives. So let's go to the first step, which is the Cannabis European Citizen Initiative. First of all, we know, or for those of you who don't know, let's recap, it's always worth. The European Citizen Initiative is the instrument of direct democracy provided by the European Union. It allows a group of 7 citizens to launch a question addressing the EU Commission, and in 12 months' time, the committee have to collect 1 million signatures across the EU member states, reaching a certain threshold in at least 7 countries. The signatures can be collected online and offline. It seems easy, but it's not. The bureaucratic requirements are quite high, and differently from a normal appeal, a European Citizen Initiative requests to the citizens to share a lot of data with the EU institutions. Maybe we'll ask Lorenzo if he can briefly tell us how we conceive the text and why we try to cover with the text that is still in discussion among the potential partners on why we decided to cover in one text multiple aspects of cannabis legalization. So with these foundational skills, we can then maybe listen to the participants in the meeting on what they already know about this project and what potentially can be done and how we can start to conduct more proactively using the summer months to lay the ground for the Eumans commitment to production.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. And I will also very briefly summarize the few concepts you said, because maybe not everyone is understood very well. So I think that Virginia was saying that there are two main points on discussion today that are in line with the objective that we decided in the last Eumans Assembly. And so one of these goals is the build of a citizens initiative on European citizens initiative on cannabis. That's the point I will try to deep in about concerning the text. And then the other topic is the Eumans group, this instrument that we have in our statute by which 5 Eumans members are allowed to start local-based or issue-based group. So that's the two main point on which we base our discussion today. So regarding the text and the initiative that Virginia was mentioning, I draw that text about removing cannabis from the substances that were under the United Nations rules, for which there are a minimum level of penalties in a European country regarding cannabis possession and cannabis use. So by summarizing that, the point is that through our ECI, we can allow member states to regulate cannabis without any penalization. So the point is that with the current rules, with the framework decision that is incorporating United Nations Convention in the EU legislation, every member state has to respect a minimum level of punishability regarding cannabis. So that's why, according to the EU legislation, there is no a full legalization possible about cannabis. So the main scope of the ECI would be this one. But of course, with a dialogue with other cannabis experts, we are trying to enlarge the focus of this cannabis ECI. So not only on criminal matters, but only on human rights issue, thanks to Maddalena suggestions, and also on other issues such as commercialization and others. So I will put in the chat the text and the introduction that is doing also a recap of why we are here today and why we are reframing our text. But yeah, maybe also with the help of Magdalena, we can try to recap why we decided to reframe a little bit the focus of our ECI. And then, yeah, of course, after this discussion on the text, there is also the issue of action. So when we close this text and submit it to the European Commission and start the examination of the ECI, and then we launch it. So this is the other issue. Now we start from the text, then there is the organization. But maybe Magdalena, I don't know if you can help me, and then everyone who's willing to have a set. But maybe you can help me better than any other to recapitulate why we decided to have a new focus on our text.
Sure, thank you very much, and lovely to see everyone. Yes, just to recapitulate the conversation that we had around the text, that, as Lorenzo explained, included numerous issues. And the worry that I had regarding the previous version was maybe the lack of social justice perspective, and the fact that we do already have some lessons learned from legislation and legislative processes in other places. And one important lesson learned is that if we do not include social justice or even racial justice from the very beginning in framing the concept that we want to see established in European Union, then it is very difficult to include that at the later stage, which quite easily may mean that we'll see regulation sooner or later in EU countries, but that may mean that big companies will basically take the lead. And in the end, not everyone will be able to afford or to benefit from the change of the policy. So we easily see that drug policy and its instruments is so widely and so eagerly used by law enforcement, by politicians, etc., against certain groups, like racial minorities, like ethnic minorities, like people who live in less wealthy districts of the cities, etc. So my suggestion was that we do include that perspective, and we think how we formulate our ask in a way that we actually do not pave the way to big companies to simply earn a lot of money on cannabis, but we rather assure that many different groups can equally benefit from the legal changes. So I'm really happy to see like the human rights right now in even in the name of the text. I myself am not a lawyer, so I still have a lot of concerns of what actually we can ask for, to also avoid the situation where EU says, well, yeah, but it's not doable. So, but for that we do need some legal advice and legal experts, etc. But to respond to your ask, Lorenzo, I think that's what you wanted me to recapitulate.
Thank you, Magdalena. Yes, thanks for this recap. I see Virginia's hand.
Yes, I'll try to make an attempt. I hope it's a bit understandable what I say, a bit better. I think we need to look at the creation of the text as something that all of the people in this meeting can contribute to in two ways. On one side, of course, if you have legal expertise, it's a good one to bring it up. But the construction of the text, of a shared text, is the key capital for the success of the European Citizen Initiative. So the more organizations and groups we can find across the EU that are willing to take part in this co-creative process, the more likely we can achieve the 1 million signatures. I try to be very specific. In this phase, we are writing the text. It means that each one of you that is in this meeting could identify experts, either in cannabis legislation or in the matters that are going to be impacted by the ECI, and try to get a double check, a reality check on how much this is something that they would help to push into their countries in terms of then the collection of signatures. So somehow we can say that we are already doing the ECI in the moment that we involve people in the co-creation process. The second thing that is very helpful in these months ahead of the launch of the CI is the construction of the network. So it's to already have a capital of groups that can reach out to their audience. They can be groups, influencers, not necessarily in the cannabis field, But in the human rights field, if we have this angle covered, in the patients and medical space, when it comes to palliative care, medical cannabis, and so forth and so on. The third field is the business sector. So all the three areas can give us an instrument to go around Europe and start to involve the partner before the launch. If we do that, then there is a sense of ownership on the initiative that can really help us that the day we launch, maybe we can already achieve 300,000 signatures or something like that. So it's, sorry, 300,000. So I think the round of table beyond the text that was already discussed in a lot of webinars is maybe also for you that are in the meeting tonight, what is that you can do with your existing contact, with your personal interest in doing this mapping of the European Union that we need to really be confident in the launch of the initiative. I don't know if Lorenzo understood what I was saying a bit better and can summarize.
Yes. No. I think it was quite clear. I think this phase of proceeding the text and building the network is already, as you said, the start of ECI. And so, yeah, this is a very key moment because we had a previous experience with the Stop Global Warming, another ECI on carbon pricing, and we try to learn from our mistake. On that case, we decided to launch the ECI and think, okay, the network will come later, just going on. But in this case, we're trying to first build an actor, first ensuring that each organization in every country have the capacity of collecting signature, that everyone agree on the text, that we are working on the same objective, and then we can start. So we will probably this summer is useful to ask ourselves, okay, when we want to start, are we sure we want to work on the same page on this objective? So yes, I think I tried to translate Virginia's work, but is okay. That's right. Okay, just in case you had problems with the acoustic. Okay, so is there anyone who would like to have a said on that?
I see Flavia, maybe.
Flavia Pansieri. Yeah, it's your hand. You're muted. Hi, Flavia. Okay, Flavia.
Okay, sorry, I'm not
fine.
so used to using it on the phone because usually I do it on the computer. Plus, since I am at an event and it's a friend of mine getting married, the caipirinha might have an effect. I wanted to say first of all that I fully agree with Magdalena. This issue, we need, when there is prosecution of cannabis use or carrying it and so on, it's really very much race and or class based, so to speak. So obviously wanting to address the issue means trying to deal with these discriminatory dimension that is inherent in the prosecution of cannabis. The decision of the Commission on Narcotic Drugs to move cannabis out of Schedule 4, which is where the heavy drugs, I think in order to get greater political support, it is important to stress the fact of cannabis as a means to address medical issues of terminal cancer patients and the like. So it's not just junkies smoking it, as the perception may be, but also the fact that there is a real medical use to address some very medical issues. No other medication addressed to this. So I think those two underlined, again, I fully agree with Magdalena on taking a human rights-based approach also in dealing with this issue. Thank you very much. Things on the phone and it's a bit complicated. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Flavia. Okay, for your comment. I don't know if there is anyone else.
I have a question in the meantime, which is to really think and maybe try to also elaborate for the participants. If we take these three angles, so the human rights, the medical, and the business, if you already have in mind groups that working on these matters that we can try to involve in this phase. So like if in your country, in your groups, in your communities, you have contacts or you know who might have contacts to take part in this phase.
I see, and there's a Limbeni hand. I don't know if it's to answer Virginia's question or for other.
No, I just raised a few seconds before Virginia, and it is not to answer to her. It is just to ask everyone or who is more deeply in the organization of the ECI. I would like to proceed about gathering contacts. Practically speaking, I agree with Flavia that the topic is must focus on policy. So our target should be for sure also policymakers to have direct support in different EU countries. Do we have a priority in terms of type of contacts that we can collect? I worked on cannabis for a pharmaceutical company, so I have mainly contacts in pharmaceuticals and technicians for technologies and extractions of cannabinoids and so on. But I don't know if they would be really useful for us. If, for example, we do a shared Excel file where we collect contacts and then we have a target, let's say, having at least a number of contacts before starting, apart from the 7 contacts from from 7 countries required to present the ECI. The question is exactly that. Do we have a hierarchy about the contacts that we have to collect, and if we have a number in mind that could be our threshold before starting the ECI? I think that would be useful to have a pathway towards the presentation of the ECI proposal.
Thank you, Andrea. I try to respond. Hope you can hear me. So, areas of priority are equal: human rights and judiciary, medical, cannabis, and business. So the 3 areas are the same, and that's why the text is divided in 3 parts, because in this way we can cover the 3 main aspects. So they are equal in terms of priority. I think the business sector and the pharmaceutical sector, it's quite interesting if we want to look for some funds and fundraising, because maybe there is an interest there that can justify some support to the campaign from a financial perspective. So I'm not saying it's a different priority than the political, but of course, getting the funds is part of the effort that we need to do for the success of the campaign. We already have a network of organizations in the 7 countries, and this is quite important. But if we can kind of build up on that network, so submit the text, start to have a bit of evaluation, like if they are interested in it's not only the text, we also have an overview document. We're trying to refine that over the next week. So that is a presentation of what it means an ECI, but I think it's an exploratory moment. So what we did with Stop Global Warming was go to organization after we launched. This time we do it in advance. So the idea is that any contact is a valuable contact at this stage. I believe that thanks to the database on the cannabis referendum in Italy and the type of work that we are doing, we should aim to be able to reach at least 1 million people with the first launch to get the first 250,000 signatures on the week of the launch. And I think it's not impossible if we do this networking exercise correctly in this phase. So that's why this meeting is important, because given the 3 categories, we already have some materials. Maybe they're not posh, but they're efficient in explaining what's the goal. So if you have in mind groups, we can provide you the materials and you can start to check if there is an appetite for the action.
Yeah, I think half a page text to as a draft of the ECI, it would be good, because I think I have many contacts, at least in the business sector. So basically I can just share and say, if we start, do you support us? That's it.
Yes, exactly. At the moment, we have an overview document, 2 pages, plus on the ECI as such, plus the draft of the text. And hopefully we're going to have a slide deck or something a bit posher soon.
Thank you, Virginia. Is there any other comment? Flavia is reminding us that she's glad to collaborate with us as a former member of the UN Drug Culture Program. So this is a very precious help we can count on.
On this,
Thank you.
maybe on this, Flavia, again, I think the methodology is the same. If we have some people that could endorse the campaign, a sort of an endorsement committee to be prepared before the launch, that could be quite helpful. I don't know how feasible it is, but knowing already that maybe we have some endorsements, comments, people that can say when we launch, like, we think it's a good idea, knowing it in advance is quite good. I don't know if it's something doable or if you had something else in mind.
Okay. So I don't know if there is any other comment. I don't know. I remember Brendan from last meeting on cannabis. Flavia again. Okay, I see your hand. Okay, you're still muted, Flavia? No, Flavia, we can't hear you.
Okay, now you should.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to react to Virginia's last comment. Let me tell you that I was criticized when I was in the drug control program. They are incredibly ideological in this, because I had a poppy brooch on my lapel. So, and I had to say, but it hasn't been harvested, to get away with it. Otherwise they would have fired me. So they still are very ideological also on cannabis issues. And I don't think it will be easy, but I can try, although I've lost contacts for a few years with those colleagues, to see whether there's any support from that side. But frankly, I am a little bit doubtful, because their position is, let's be safe. More an issue of member states who push for, harm reductions, legalizing cannabis and things like that can have a certain clout, but to expect the Drug and Crime Office to take the initiatives, I think, is a little bit a pie in the sky. That being said, I'll be happy to work with you. I think this is an important issue. that we need to bring to the European level, that given that in Italy, plus we've just lost a government that was trying somehow to do something, to the stupidity of some really myopic members of it. So there's a big mess in Italy. I think going the European way is the only way to try to get some movement and some traction on some of these issues. So as the saying goes, include me in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flavia. This is very precious for us. I don't know, Virginia, do you want to take the lead now that maybe you're more stable?
Yeah, I'm one moment stable. So I think unless we want to add something on the cannabis matter and transitioning to the next topic on the agenda, I think a good idea could be to have a Eumans group officially on cannabis. Is something that also Lorenzo suggested and Magda. I think maybe also in the interest of how our organization works, having someone that cares about the initiative and somehow in collaboration with me, of course, and to the team that we will be on that, can be quite an idea. So moving to the next point, if no one else wants to speak on this, let's talk about the Eumans groups. As Lorenzo was saying, these are very precious instruments that we added to our statute during the Congress in Warsaw as an idea to kind of empower the activists that are part of our movement to be a bit more independent in the research work that is needed for the initiative, in the advocacy work, in the informational work. And we got on one side Andrea, that is working on the launch of the sustainability Eumans group, started from the carbon pricing goal. So I don't know, first of all, if Andrea has some updates on that. And also we have Klaus that maybe can explain in the meeting what we had in mind.
I don't know if Klaus wants to say something before me, as I have already said something. The update is the following. I'm preparing a one-page structure of the group, what should be the activity and how it should be managed, because it is not only about topics, but it's also about how to interact with all who want to participate. Meanwhile, there is this sad, funny event today, because we had this great opportunity to meet the head of cabinet of Italian president. So I went to Rome. I arrived to Rome at 9:15, and then it was just okay. Everything was cancelled, and so I just stayed at Roma Termini, and then took another train and back home in 5 minutes. And it was sadly funny, and but we had until 5 minutes ago, we had the meeting on the 21st, but now I see that probably on 21st, our president won't be the same. No president, but our premier won't be the same. So basically, we are engaging on finding government support to go to the conference on climate in Egypt. We have time, and I think there is an opportunity. I think a great opportunity is also represented for Italian government, at least, by the activity of Lorenzo and by the strike for climate and citizens' assemblies, because it can raise attention on the topic. I keep trying, but anyway, about the group, this will be the core of the next 4 months at least. I would like to focus on a few things. just 1, 2, 3 things to carry on. But soon I will share on Agora the structure of the group, the human group on sustainability, and to let everyone know about how we'd like to organize it.
Thank you, Andrea. I think if you can share the document on Eumans Agora, it's helpful also for the organizational aspects. As we know, we're building Eumans doing it. So any idea on how to better organize and optimize the energies of the volunteers is quite important. So I'd say beyond the goals, as you said, the organization bit is key. So what you need, what you want to do, and also maybe have more people joining the group and progressively maybe also having these meetings that we do every 2 weeks, maybe updates from the groups, things like that, like to really make everyone feel more empowered. Italian governments, they're quick, like the weather changes in Belgium. So, okay. Klaus, do you want to tell us what you have in mind for the unconditional basic income group?
Yes, thank you very much. In our situation, we have just finished 25 of June, our ECI, but it was not not enough. We have about 300,000 and so on and so on. But now the question was how to proceed. And one of our idea was that we want to rename our ECI team in UBI, in your initiative, European initiative, UBI, European initiative. And this name should be a group now, which continues to fight for the implementation of the unconditional basic income in Europe, and certainly in principle worldwide and so on. And in this case, we was of the opinion that it would be very nice if our group would be agreed by Eumans, that we join and collaborate with Eumans, and to give this UBI as a topic which should seriously discussed in the next months. And so we have at the end of July, on 30th of July, a meeting where we make reflecting what happens until now. We ask all our national coordinators what they have done, what was good, was not that good, and so on and so on. And then going with how to proceed and discuss Eumans topics. And I hope that then we will get an agreement. Sorry, serious, some tones. Yes, and so I would also invite perhaps you, Virginia, if you could join us in this 30th of July meeting, and then we can say how is the communication between our group and your group, and how we can proceed in detail and make it fix how we proceed. That is a very short explanation at the moment. Certainly, we have all the advantages which we have seen by the work which was also supported by the Conference of Europe and so on and so on. And there are many points which was also mentioned already by Lorenzo, that we want to have in the future EU referendum, and perhaps if we have an EU referendum, which is much more as an ECI, then perhaps a candidate, unconditional basic income, could be a candidate for a UR referendum, because our, at the moment, survey has given that 32% in Europe are in favor and 22 against, and the others are not clear. And from 7 countries, this survey, yes? So it means this is not so bad to come with such a thing, more and more awareness for that UBI, and perhaps to get more and more public in this respect. and also what you have mentioned, said a new convention should be started to make a new European possibility to change something from the treaties now to something which is very important. For example, Ukraine as a member state, okay, and now the others 3 or 4 also want to be member states, and then, for example, 32 member states. There we would not have the possibility to work effective if we have not, for example, the right also to not to have that we have not always to be all of, for example, 32 people of the same opinion, but also a majority could then be perhaps decide how to proceed, in which directions and so on. Otherwise, we would block each other in any of our ideas. So that are also very important things, and we have also seen that this is supported by Eumans, and therefore we are in principle also very in favor for the work of Eumans. The short description, I don't know if it is enough for now.
Thank you very much, Klaus. I can also maybe prepare a bit of a presentation of Eumans for the meeting, so that the people in your meeting can better understand how Eumans works. And on the other side, it's very interesting for us to hear experiences of European citizen initiatives in the different member states and so on. So this is a perfect first step. From a political perspective, it's interesting that the Italian government, one of the reasons for the fall was around economical decisions around either basic income, citizenship income, and the Decreto Aiuti, which is an economical measure. So I think discussing the unconditional basic income is important. We never had an official discussion on that. So I think one thing that we should do is to create a debate within Eumans, take a stand on the unconditional basic income matter, maybe in preparation of the next assembly, for example. But maybe let's have this meeting on the 30th of July. I present the options, and then we decide how to move forward with this. But of course, for us, it's an important recognition also of the work that we have done in the past weeks and months, and also the framing that you have, like the Conference on the Future of Europe follow-up, the European Convention, and so on, is a great kind of bonding element for our communities to work together.
Okay, okay.
I don't see any comment from the chat apart from Brendan, which is okay, which is sharing a document. I think it's about how it works for the submission of. No, sorry, Brendan, could you recap what it's all about?
It's a slight sidetrack, really. Our organization, there was a committee here set up within our Department of Justice to examine the possibility of decriminalizing small amounts of drugs. It sort of came by surprise. Nobody was expecting it. There was a short time for submission. So we made a submission, which I've linked, and we were invited to speak on the day. It was interesting because we had also added we felt that not only should decriminalization be go ahead, of course, but we should also decriminalize the self-production of plant-based drugs, which actually gave some of our, on the day when it came to discussing this in the in the committee, it gave some of the politicians that would not be in favor of decriminalizing because of the impact on the criminal market a way to perhaps support pushing for decriminalizing, because they could see a way that this wouldn't be supporting a black market. But anyway, it's just a bit of news from here. Obviously, what happens next is that the Justice Committee will make a recommendation. I think it's pretty clear from how the day went that it will be in favor of decriminalization. But this then goes to the normal politics. And when it goes to the normal Irish politics, I expect, like many other reports, it will fall to the floor, but we'll see. This autumn, one of the politicians is going to introduce a bill to remove cannabis from the schedule of controlled substances. Again, I expect this will fail, but perhaps by not very much. And that then increases the pressure greatly for decriminalisation. So that's the news from Ireland. Obviously, having some change at the European level would greatly help here, but you know, it's not going to happen this in time for this, but that's what's coming up in Ireland in the next few months. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brandon. And I think we'll be glad to collaborate with you on the drafting of the ECI, even because Ireland, it's really lately is becoming an example on several issues, such the citizen assembly on drugs. I mean, I don't know if
I don't think that's going to happen in a hurry. At the moment, what we've got under freedom of information requests is that some of our politicians are actually trying to keep cannabis out of the Citizens' Assembly on drugs. They feel it should remain focused on our opiate deaths, which are terrible because our opiate death rate is 3 times the European average. And in fact, just to refer back again to Tuesday, the Cannabis Risk Alliance came in and they were very sloppy. This is an organization that normally lobbies behind closed doors with politicians. They do not normally engage in any open debate. And they came in on Tuesday with, you know, some statistics that just don't make any sense. And we were very lucky that one of the most alarming papers is one I've actually read. So we were able to dismantle some of their arguments around psychosis at least. But it's going to be a really mixed fight, I think, for the next wee while in Ireland. At the consumer level, there's a great deal of appetite for change because the current police commissioner for the last few years in Ireland has been having a complete crackdown on even very small scale possession. And a lot of cases are now going to the courts for, you know, under a gram. And circuit court judges are mandating, you know, drug tests, even hair tests, to ensure people are clean before they're given probation act, this sort of thing. So there's a lot of pressure mounting around that, but whether or not we make progress on decriminalization this year, I don't know, but we are trying, and there does seem to be some cracks opening.
Sorry, Brandon, one comment from me. Do you have a way to map and reach out to these stakeholders that have been invited to this hearing? And somehow can we start to have an overview of the other actors beyond Crane in Ireland so that we can try to maybe, I don't know, having an Irish meeting on the European Citizen Initiative or something like.
We have a loose alliance here called the Cannabis Activist Alliance, and you know, Crane is part of that, and that's probably a very good place to start because everybody's involved a bit with that. You know, our focus is on education, and it's very much on cannabis too. Other organizations are focusing on other aspects of drug policy, and you know, maybe more direct action, which you know, we're not against direct action at all, but it makes it harder for us to have some of the conversations with legislators and, you know, politicians that we need to have. So, yeah, I think there's a lot happening in Ireland, but I don't know how well organized we are yet, if that makes sense. In terms of collecting signatures, though, we are a good country for that. It's not very difficult here. We have lower requirements in other countries. We have a large following on Reddit who are active and would be very keen to help out. So I wouldn't worry about us being able to make a quota for signatures from Ireland when we are ready with a petition.
Maybe to anticipate a bit, if you want, we could try to organize a dedicated meeting with this network that you are mentioning to present in advance the proposal so that somehow there is a bit of a sense of ownership and the organizations can learn about the ECI. Maybe they can share with us some numbers of how many people they can reach. We can have a bit of, and we can also see how to intersecate the European level with the national level. And for us, as a coordinator organization of the initiative, it's helpful to see on a case-by-case basis how we can act into the different member states. So somehow we can use Ireland since it's a bit easier from a number perspective, and we can see how this sort of preparatory meeting can help and then replicate that in other member states as we build up the initiative. But maybe it's a way to go. And also, just to mention that on the 23rd of June, we had the webinar on cannabis, the last webinar, and we were supported by a network called United Global Parliamentarian Network. It's a network of national MPs that on different matters, they kind of join forces transnationally. If I remember correctly, they had an Irish member that could have participated and then it didn't, but I can also check with them what is their network like in Ireland, so that maybe it can help you to identify some partners that are also connected to the European Citizen Initiative level. So again, we go from local to transnational, and we build up the momentum that is needed.
I'll be meeting, I think, next Tuesday with the Activist Alliance here. So I'll mention this, and then I'll try and come back. It was only a few hours ago I got reminded by one of my colleagues that this meeting was taking place, but I will try and be more regular, and we can close the gap on that, because I think it would be really helpful to bring us all together. But from terms of actual lobbying and political maneuvering here in Ireland, our politicians are now on summer holidays, so there's not much is going to happen for a couple of months, but we need to prepare so that when they're not on holidays, we can really put the pressure on.
Exactly. That's the point of keeping active during the summer. It's the winter project, the opposite of the bikini one. Okay. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something.
Magdalena has her hand up, so I'll let you maybe take her in next.
Yeah, Magda, sorry.
Thank you. Just one more sentence on Ireland, and to add to our list of contacts. I mean, in quite good terms with Analythi Drug Project in Ireland. Where Brandon, you surely know them.
I do know them. I don't have any contacts with them personally, but yes, I know them and I respect their work.
So yeah, I mean they focus on harm reduction and decrim. But they have really a good network around Europe. And when I was still with OSF, together with Analythi Drug Project, we created an informal network of advocates in Europe, advocates for decriminalization, so people from different countries. So definitely, I think it's a good group to reach out to regarding the initiative as well. And thinking about Analythi, I know they do know some of the politicians and parliamentarians, because I remember meeting a few people with their help. I wouldn't remember the names right now, but
politically, our current drugs minister really worked quite hard to limit the amount of influence that groups like Analythi had. Some of the groups like Analythi were removed from the National Task Force this year. And Professor Bobby Smith, who I had an excellent argument with last Tuesday, was promoted into this organization. In part, I think, because Analythi, Anna Quigley, I think, was involved in Analythi at the time. Analythi, along with about 100 other people working in rehabilitation in about 2020, signed a letter which they sent to the media calling for decriminalization. And this was not politically well received. So the current minister did take it very personally. But the current minister we have for drugs policy was chosen by his party to be a very hardline obstacle, because the government is a coalition of three parties, and Fine Gael, who he's from, take a very hard line and have done always. But the Green Party, who's involved, actually had a policy for legalizing cannabis, and it was in their program for government, and they wanted to keep a really tight lid on that. So that's why at the moment we have this awful man, but you get what you get.
Yeah, so you're definitely well better into the Irish situation, of course. Just to mention that we can anyway reach out to Analythi, also thinking about the initiative and the networks who would then support and share the word, etc.
I think Dr. Garrett McGovern is a very useful asset. Also, you'll see in one of the links I've got his own submission. He's very vocal now and on board and very much part of the activist movement. He's not on our calls on Tuesdays. He's far too busy for that, but you know, he's there to provide support when we need him.
Okay, that's great. I think also another practical thing that we can start to do is to maybe have a mailing group or something for the cannabis initiative, so that we can start to exchange information and things like that, and work together exactly on this cooperative approach. Okay, so I don't see the other hands. Okay, no, I think we are good. So we will reach out on the different matters, and we will create a calendar of the activities for the summer. I guess on August we will have a bit of a break, but in the meantime, both on the Cannabis initiative and the other Eumans actions will be follow-ups in the next days. Thanks everyone for joining, and you got all our contacts, so for anything, just reach out.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao,
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Cheers from now.
Bye bye.
Get some joints.